My name is Brian Monk. I live just out of Kyogle on 5,000 acres, but we see ourselves as coal seam gas refugees. We don't believe that we can subject our grandchildren to living in a gas field, and we are in the next developing gas field in that area. Well, it all started, I guess, with a company coming onto the property saying that they wanted to do an exploration well and offering us what was probably a pretty reasonable deal. They proved themselves to be liars from the start, and I think anyone that deals with this industry will very quickly realise that their first line of attack is a lie. And if you ever get the full truth, I don't believe anyone will ever get the full truth out of this industry at all. If they tell you the full truth, they have to tell you they're going to poison the water, they're going to poison the air, and they're going to poison the soil, and that means we're all poisoned and we're all heading for a terrible future, an evil future.
Okay, how does coal seam gas affect us? It must be about 15 months or 18 months ago now, they fracked a well, about 4.5 kilometres from us. They fracked a well, and all of a sudden, one day our grandkids were in the bath, and they started crying, and so Kathy pulled them out of the bath, and they had a ring around them. Everything that had been in the water was red, like a burn, like a chemical burn or a scald or something like that. And so they've got this ring from the belly down, and so we just stopped using the bore water. We knew what had happened. You can't prove it. You try and prove anything in Queensland, you have a go. Now, so the kids have got this horrible burn. David and Kathy, who are adults, so their skin's a lot harder, they're the same deal. They've just got this red chemical type burn. So we stopped using the bore for everything but washing dishes. Washing clothes, rather, not dishes, washing clothes. Then after a short while, then it became unusable for that, and a little while after that, the stock stopped drinking it. This wouldn't drink the water. And about maybe 3-4 months ago, the frogs that happily lived in our little tank that we used to pump out of the bore straight into a tank and then pressure pumped it to the house, the frogs died. And we started to think there was something fairly bad happening here. We're lighting the bore's lighting. You can see the flames coming out of the gas. You can feel it, you don't need to see it. Hold on to the 1.5-inch pipe, you can feel the gas bubble through. And so I guess what I'm saying is, if you're going to rely on the government to look after you, they're going to kill you. Yeah, I called them a lot worse than that. We've since had a very sophisticated meter that shows quite high levels of hydrogen sulphide in the water. The point is, they can't do any of this safely. They do affect aquifers. They have to affect aquifers. Anyone that uses any common sense knows they affect aquifers. Any waterboard driller knows they affect aquifers, and any farmer knows it. But we've got a 40-metre pipeline right up the boundary, and they spray that with water, product water. And although they're not meant to, or they're meant to treat it, but there's film on YouTube that would suggest that they drag the water straight out of one production well, or one well just prior to production, and then turn the tap on as they're driving the tanker to the next well, and just spray the water straight onto the ground. Now, there's footage available on YouTube. If you have a look, you'll see that actually happening. So this poisoned water, which can have anything up to 7,000 or 8,000 parts per million of salt, as well as whatever chemicals they've used drilling the hole, is just sprayed straight into our community. But in particular, the effect that we believe it's had on us is, since they've been spraying this 40-metre pipeline for dust suppression, which they spray straight into the trees, I might add, and on rainy days, still days, it makes no difference, the product water's going to be gone. And they spray bitumen roads, and that's why we believe the water is their enemy, and if they try and dispose of it in your area here, it goes straight into your river systems. And your river systems, of course, are very pure up here and should be protected. Why should we be ingesting coal seam gas byproduct, and why should your river systems be being affected by it, and all for a multinational company? And I know that at the moment they're talking Metgasco. In Queensland it was Queensland Gas Company, but when the time was right, British Gas came along and plucked QGC off of the market, bought the entire thing. There's not one Australian shareholder of QGC, well, unless you buy a share from Britain. But your area, of course, is Metgasco, and it's going to be gobbled up by Arrow Energy, which is Royal Dutch Shell PetroChina. Now, they're both multinational companies. They both have no concern for you. They don't care about your beautiful countryside here, and people have said to me over this weekend, this is God's own country. And I'll tell you what, it's pretty good. And I look at the streams and the water and I think, wow, that's beautiful. I know what coal seam gas is going to do to you guys. It's going to, all these beautiful streams will be dead. We went for a walk over the Richmond River, and we were watching platypuses in the water there. It's not very often you see platypuses. You guys might, but we don't. And we were watching the platypuses, and I said to Carol, I bet they can't live with coal seam gas. And they won't. Your river systems will be polluted. You know, why would the people in Ballina want coal seam gas water? Because it's coming your way. It's their enemy. They can't get rid of it. There's nothing they can do with it. And if they process it, it becomes so expensive to process that it's not viable for the industry. And the industry then goes back to the government and says, this isn't viable. This is what they've done in Queensland. We can't get our water down to 21 parts per million. We've got to go for 4,200, which is toxic. And we're talking gigalitres of water. We're not talking, you know, we've got a creek that flows sometimes now when there's no rain that flows bigger than your Richmond River's flowing at the moment. I don't know, where's that water come from? There's a lot of water. Make a river flows a lot of water. But if you ring up the government, they say, no, that's just rain in the headlands. Well, you know, there's nowhere higher. But anyway, I guess my point about coal seam gas is you have a beautiful area, you need to keep this beautiful area, and the only way to do that is to lock your gate. You need to lock the gate, you need to talk to your neighbours, you need to say, listen, this is bad stuff, lock this gate. And you need to support your neighbours, because these companies come on and they are quite heavy-handed with the way they want to get through, and they'll bring the government with you, and in Queensland they bring the police with them. And they're going to do their best to crush into your community. And the people they'll attack first are motels. I mean, I imagine that they've already approached and talked to your motels. I don't know. I'd say they would have. That's what they did in Queensland. Why wouldn't they do it here? And then they'll get your earth-moving workers, and then they'll, you know, pluck off different different people that have got skills that they want. And then they get the land burglars, we call them, and they're the people that turn up at your gate and they say, look, we want to do an exploration well. Well, that's lie number one. They know the gas is there. The New South Wales government down here has given them all the data. They know where the gas is. They don't need to do exploration. What they're really saying is, we want to get a signature for your property so that we can get onto your property and so that we can start drilling and so we can start destroying. That's step one. And after that, so they pick off one neighbour, and then the next neighbour thinks, well, it's a foregone conclusion. That guy goes around and tells everyone, this is a good deal. You know, this is a great deal, but it's not a great deal in 20 years' time when there's no clean water and when there's no clean food. I went to your farmers markets and I thought, how beautiful is that? Organic farmers markets, how lucky you guys are. You know, it doesn't get any better than what you've got. Don't let coal seam gas come in here, because it's only going to get worse, really worse. Because now I'm going to talk to you about compressor stations. I got one that's going to be built 2 kilometres away. They reckon if you're within 5 kilometres of a compressor station, you are guaranteed to die of some bizarre illness. I've got one 2.5k away. I've got 7 grandchildren that live on the property and a son and daughter-in-law that live on the property with Carol and myself, and we can't stay there. How can you stay there? How could anyone make a rational decision and say, I'm going to pollute my grandchildren, I'm going to actually give them illnesses? You can't. No sane person can do that. You guys wouldn't do it. But if it beats the Northern Rivers, you guys have stood out over the years. If it beats the Northern Rivers, Australia is finished. There will be nowhere. I can be a Surat Basin gas refugee, but if they beat the Northern Rivers, there will be nowhere left. And I can't imagine where would be safe. You know, like, honestly, where do you think in Australia will be saved if they beat the Northern Rivers? I know they won't beat you because you're going to lock the gate. You're going to help your neighbours lock the gate. And you're going to lock up your community. So the people that want to support this damn industry, you make sure they know from you that you don't like them. And your council, if it's going to support them, I don't know, I'm told by a councillor this morning that he supports this rally here, and I'm hoping that's true. And your mayor says all the right things, but let's see, when it comes to putting the fight, when it comes to doing the fight, the council's part of it. The Lions Club's part of it. They co-own the road, don't they? You can't get a pipeline if the people that own it lock the gate. So now your council and your Lions Club, lock the gate. You don't want what's coming your way. And the minute that Matt Gasco gets that pipeline to supply Brisbane, can you believe the crap that they're talking? We need to supply Brisbane with gas. Queensland hasn't got enough of it. You know, come on. But once Matt Gasco gets up that hill, being a nice Australian company, all treating you as warm and fuzzy, then Shell PetroChina moves in, and I mean, they kill people in Africa, so I don't think they care too much about us, do you? Anyway, I'll whinge all day. I think I've said enough. Northern Rivers needs to stop this. Lock your gate. Set the precedence for the rest of the country.
My only advice that's worth listening to the Northern Rivers is simple. Lock your gate. Don't entertain any of the industry propaganda or any of the people that come to your door. Lock the gate first. Help your neighbour lock his gate. Help your community lock their gate. And don't let these people destroy this beautiful area. This is a beautiful area. This is where we want to escape to. This is where we want to be refugees in this area, and we want to help people fight, because we've seen what happens if you don't fight, or if you fight too late. Our fight started 6 years too late, and pretty much by stealth and lies and bullying, especially bullying, these companies have worked their way through the entire community, really, all except for the few of us that are left standing. $1 is not going to be worth much when you can't buy good food. And I believe that property with gas wells or pipelines will be listed as toxic waste dumps, because that's what they are. These industries are notorious for spillage, and that's toxins, and those toxins are far worse than what they lock people's property up for now. Whatever you do, you might do a deal for $15,000 or $20,000 with a gas company, but your property is instantly devalued to probably half if you can sell it. We couldn't sell our property unless we sold it to a gas company. So your land will be worth nothing. You won't be able to produce anything. So yeah, it's your future. You're fighting for your future, and 20,000's not much of a future.